field, sir.
Guest of honor, sir, Honorable Dr. Chitalu Kirufya, MP, Deputy Minister of Health, Excellencies, Ambassadors, High Commissioners here present, senior government officials of the host country, Republic of Zambia, heads of international organizations represented here, members of the media fraternity, distinguished ladies and gentlemen. Let me begin by warmly welcoming and thanking all of you for joining us in commemorating the 22nd anniversary of the genocide against Tutsi. I also wish to thank the guest of honor for making time out of his busy schedule and with us as we remember and honor over 1 million of our people who departed from us in 1994. Our dark history is indeed stark evidence of what bad governance can do. The innocent people were brutally killed in cold blood at the hands of whole government and its militia following an orchestrated plan. This year's commemoration events are held under the theme, Kwibuka 22, Fighting Genocide Ideology. As we commemorate, it is important for us to remember that it is this same ideology of extreme hate that motivated planning and execution of the genocide. The last phase of genocide, which is genocide denial, is again informed by the same ideology. In the case of Rwanda, this phase has seen genocide perpetrators and their sympathizers engage in denial and trivialization of genocide while distorting the truth of what happened. By fighting the genocide ideology and preserving the history of the genocide, we fight impunity, thus guarding against the occurrence of genocide anywhere else. Guest of honor, excellencies, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, this darkest period of Rwanda's history was a culmination of ethnic-based politics, and mostly whose roots are a part of our colonial legacy. Creation and escalation of ethnic tensions was used by our colonial masters in their quest to conquer through divide and rule. Rwandese had previously existed in harmony for centuries. We speak the same language, share the same culture, and inhabit the same land. In 1935, our colonial masters initiated a policy that was unprecedented in the Rwandan history. They transformed then existing social class distinctions of land farmers who were Hutus, cattle herders who were Tutsis, and the hunters who were Twas to ethnic distinctions. Rwandans were subjected to undignified physical measurements as a criteria for ethnic differentiation. On this basis, national IDs with classification of the 3 ethnic identities were issued as far back as 1935. These national IDs were to later be used in 1959 and the subsequent years to kill and violently exile Tutsis. Consequently, Rwanda notoriously produced the first biggest mass exodus of refugees into neighboring countries on the whole continent. This ethnic-based politics was to later climax in the 1994 genocide against Tutsi. National IDs were again very handy in identifying those meant for killing at roadblocks which were manned by militia as well as armed forces of the time. The media was so actively mobilized for the killing secret. Only 100 days were enough for killing over 1 million Tutsis and moderate Hutus. all killed at the hands of a government whose sole responsibility was otherwise to protect and provide for those that they killed. Mathematically, this averaged 10,000 deaths or killings per day, the fastest genocide in its history. As we gather here today, each and every one of us has an important responsibility, not only to ensure peace in our time, but for our children and successive generations. That is why the Rwandan history must not only be confined to commemorative gatherings such as this, and neither should it be limited to Rwandans only. Our young people need to be educated on the disastrous consequences of bad leadership. They should also know the evils of genocide ideology and the perils of ethnic divisions. I strongly believe this will enable us together with our youth to cherish humanity more, champion human compassion, preserve harmony, practice reconciliation, and maintain human dignity. I'm proud to say that this is the sense and spirit with which Rwandans have confronted the post-genocide era, and the results are there for us to see. Guests of honor, excellencies, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, the Rwanda Patriotic Front, RPF, under the command of President Paul Kagame, ably stopped the genocide by the 4th of July 1994. The new government of national unity inherited what many in the international community believed was a typical condemned failed state. Against all odds, not least genocidaries that were organizing a comeback to finish the genocide agenda, the post-1994 government reorganized the country from a near-failed state to a formidable nation that to date enjoys peace and tranquility. It is worth mentioning that post-1994 Rwanda has enjoyed steady economic growth, averaging 8% for over a decade now. President Paul Kagame's role in successfully stopping the genocide, his results-oriented leadership focus, prioritization of national security, as well as provision of goods and services to all Rwandans without discrimination, has earned him a unique reputation. Guests of honor, excellencies, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, on behalf of my government, the High Commission, and my own behalf, let me now thank the government and friendly people of the Republic of Zambia for having been among the first African countries to contribute in the fight against genocide-related impunity. For those who may not know, Zambia was among the very first African countries to facilitate arrest and transfer of genocide suspects to the now defunct International Criminal Tribunal for Rwanda, ICTR. Rwanda has received very good collaboration since then from across the globe, with resultant extradition of genocide suspects from Western capitals, including from the US, Canada, and other European countries. We cannot thank them enough. These genocide suspects are facing trial in Rwandan courts. This does not only fight impunity and genocide ideology, but reinforces global commitment to never again suffer another genocide anywhere. Some of the perpetrators of the 1994 genocide against Tutsi still hide both on the continent and beyond, and are notoriously involved in the spread of genocide ideology. There is thus need for more reinforced collaboration for the perpetrators of the genocide to face justice, as we also continue to fight genocide ideology. Let me also take this moment and thank the government of the Republic of Zambia for having facilitated seamless establishment of our High Commission, which is as old as since June last year. The main task of the High Commission is to support the reinforcement of bilateral and economic relations between both countries, which are reflected in the existing Joint Permanent Commission, JPC. Rwanda is grateful to the government of the Republic of Zambia for having declared the cessation clause on the former Rwandan refugees, which took effect on 30th of June 2013. The High Commission will continue to give required consular services, including passports, to these Rwandan comrades while supporting full implementation of the cessation clause. This indeed complements the government of Rwanda's policy of working towards achieving the goal of not having refugees at all. It is worth noting that the government of Rwanda has since 1994 repatriated and fully integrated over 3.5 million former refugees that had gone into exile in 1994. Guests of honor, excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, post-genocide Rwanda continues to make good progress on several facets, thanks to the very dedicated and visionary leadership. This progress is also buttressed by the resilience and choices Rwandans have made over the years out of patriotism despite our past darkest chapter. As rightly put by President Paul Kagame at the 20th commemoration of genocide in 2014, and I quote, "After 1994, everything was a priority and our people were completely broken, but we made three fundamental choices. One, we chose to stay together. When the refugees came home, we were choosing to be together. When we released genocide suspects in anticipation of Agachacha, we were choosing to be together. When we passed an inclusive constitution that transcends politics based on division and entrenched the rights of women as full partners in nation building for the first time, we were choosing to be together. When we extended comprehensive new education and health benefits to all our citizens, we were choosing to be together. Two, we chose to be accountable to ourselves. When we decentralize power and decision making into the towns and the hills across, we are being accountable. When we award scholarships and appoint public servants based on merit without discrimination, we are being accountable. When we sanction an official who abuses their power or engages in corruption, no matter how high-ranking, we are being accountable. As a result, our citizens expect more from government and they deserve it. Number three, we chose to think big. When Rwandans liberated our country, we were thinking big. When we created Rwanda's Vision 2020 and committed to meeting our development goals, we were thinking big. When we invested in broadband network that reaches all our 30 districts, we were thinking big. When we became a regular contributor to United Nations and the African Union peacekeeping missions, we were thinking big. Guests of honor, excellencies, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, the RPF under the guidance of President Paul Kagame has strongly been motivated by the desire to reunite a fractured Rwanda. Mission has been that of building a nation in which all Rwandans live in dignity and with freedom. After successfully stopping the genocide, laws against impunity that had led to genocide were established, the ethnic-based national IDs abolished, and the value was given to being Rwandan as opposed to ethnic differentiation. Rwanda. Constitutionally, government is broad-based and any winning political party cannot take more than 50% of senior government positions. It's not winner takes it all. More so, laws and institutions for accountability have been established, as well as decentralization of governance. All this has enabled corrective and consultative decision-making that is people-focused. It has also nurtured consensual as opposed to confrontational democracy. With unity of purpose and hard work by Rwandans, Rwanda has risen from the ashes and registered real transformation, both socially and economically, over the last 2 decades. It is a story about a people and their determination to look ahead to a new day. More specifically, it is a story of 12 million people building a nation from scratch. This indeed bears testimony to Thomas Fuller's famous quote, "It is always darkest before the dawn." Rwanda, under the stewardship of President Paul Kagame, has since 1994 achieved political stability, built sound government institutions, established rule of law, and embarked on economic development. Government has created a conducive environment for participation and inclusiveness in civil society, zero tolerance to corruption, and the vigorous fiscal discipline. This has led to steadfast socio-economic development and upturned the GDP per capita of a meager $143 in 1994 to a GDP per capita of $800 as by end of 2015. Under Vision 2020, Rwanda targets to be a middle-income country with a GDP per capita of $1,440 by the year 2020. It's ambitious, but we believe from where we have come, it is achievable. In their support towards consolidating regional and global peace, Rwanda continues to give her modest contribution in peacekeeping missions both in the African continent and beyond. The country is now globally the 5th biggest troop contributing country for peacekeeping missions, with a force of 6,077 troops and police. This progress was improbable to fathom in the immediate aftermath of the 1994 genocide. With the commendable progress registered since 1994, it is paramount that we sustain the momentum, stay focused, and be full of optimism on the future of our country, the region, and our continent. In conclusion, as we reflect on how far we have come, allow me to thank the friends of Rwanda that have walked the distance with us. And for fellow Rwandans here present, we should indeed value and jealously regard the positive milestones registered in our journey of nation building. We should strive to multiply our own individual efforts for progress. We must prepare our children to be good stewards of tomorrow, stewards that learn from our past, able to consolidate today's progress and strive to achieve the ultimate vision of a Rwanda that is fully developed and dignified. Rakoze, thank you all, and God bless you.
Thank you, Excellency Shashira. Before we hear the speech by Honorable Guest of Honor, we will follow a very short video clip